courtroom was silent, but the tension was deafening. Every eye fixed on Martell Holt, a man once praised for charm, success, and that picture-perfect image beside Melody Cherie. But this wasn't a TV set, and there were no producers to save the scene. This was real life, and the stakes were higher than ever. The future of his children hung in the balance, and the man who once sold the world on black love and ambition now stood accused of losing control. Again. Whispers spread that his courtroom behavior was explosive, that he went toe-to-toe with the guardian ad litem appointed to protect his kids. And when he allegedly said, "Let's thug it," everything changed. That one phrase turned into a viral firestorm, a symbol of how far Martell has fallen from grace. Was it frustration, ego, or a desperate attempt to hold on to control? Nobody knows. But one thing's clear, the mask has slipped. The man who once built an empire on image is now fighting to save his name, his legacy, and his family, while the world watches every move. Because this time, the cameras aren't directing the drama, life is. The walls of the courtroom seemed to close in as Martell Holt sat across from the very person who could determine the course of his relationship with his children. The guardian ad litem, a figure meant to remain neutral, had become the mirror Martell couldn't avoid. Every question, every observation was a test of restraint, a chance to show growth and self-control. But witnesses say that's not what happened. Instead, Martell's pride walked into that courtroom long before he did, and the man once known for smooth talk and perfect composure reportedly unraveled before everyone's eyes. Those who were present say it started small, a tone too sharp, an answer too defensive, but quickly escalated into something no one expected. When he allegedly looked at the guardian and said, "Let's thug it," the atmosphere shifted completely. Some gasped, others froze, and a few just shook their heads, because in that one moment, it wasn't just about custody, it was about control. For years, Martell had been fighting to prove he wasn't the villain the public painted him to be. He blamed editing, social media, even Melody for turning people against him. But inside that courtroom, there was no script, no producer, no camera to cut away when emotions got too raw. It was just him, his choices, and a system that doesn't care about excuses. What made the scene so shocking was the contrast between the man he once was and the man he appeared to be now. This was the same Martell who, not long ago, represented Black excellence and family success, the father who preached structure and image while building an empire beside Melody Cherie. Together, they were the face of ambition and partnership. But after the affair, the divorce, and the endless back and forth, the line between public persona and private reality began to blur. What people saw that day in court wasn't the confident businessman or the polished TV personality. It was a man fighting himself as much as the system. The phrase, "let's thug it," became more than words. It became a reflection of a mindset that refuses to yield even when surrender might bring peace. Insiders claim the Guardian's report afterward was filled with concern about Martell's emotional control, describing moments where he appeared confrontational, dismissive, and unwilling to listen. The court took notice, and so did the public. Within hours, the rumor hit social media, spreading like wildfire across fan pages and blogs. Memes, hashtags, and opinion videos flooded timelines, turning Martell's alleged words into a symbol of recklessness. For someone who built a brand on image and respectability, it was a devastating blow. But what's worse is what it revealed. Behind the smile and designer suits, behind the gym selfies and motivational captions, is a man seemingly unable to let go of control, unable to accept that the narrative he once wrote so carefully is no longer his to shape. The courtroom wasn't just another hearing, it was a mirror. And what reflected back wasn't power or success, but a man on the verge of losing everything he once fought so hard to protect. Outside the courthouse, word of Martell's outburst spread faster than any official record could. Huntsville was buzzing, group chats lit up, and fan pages dissected every rumor with surgical precision. Everyone had an opinion, and most of them weren't kind. For many, it wasn't about what he said, it was about what it symbolized. The man who once stood for family unity and business excellence now seemed like a shadow of his former self. His behavior was being read as proof that fame had consumed him, that the man who once preached discipline and order was now unraveling under pressure. Meanwhile, Melody Cherie was the calm after the storm. She hadn't spoken publicly about the court proceedings, but her silence was louder than any statement. Her social media told a different story. Soft smiles, motivational captions, and moments with her children that radiated peace. She was focused on healing, not fighting, and that quiet confidence made her look even stronger against Martell's chaos. Supporters flooded her comments, calling her grace personified, the woman who turned pain into purpose. Even her simple post saying, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper," became a viral anthem for women who'd survived heartbreak and betrayal. It was clear to everyone watching that while Martell was fighting the system, Melody was mastering herself. The rest of the cast from Love and Marriage, Huntsville didn't need to name names to make their stance known. Marcel posted about emotional discipline, Letitia shared quotes about letting people expose themselves, and Kimmy's reflections on maturity sounded like thinly veiled commentary. It was a masterclass in subtle shade. The message was clear. Martell's downfall wasn't just bad luck, it was a pattern. People were tired of the excuses, the cryptic posts, the endless deflection. They wanted growth, accountability, humility. But instead, Martell doubled down, flooding his feed with pictures of luxury cars, motivational captions, and self-praise. It looked less like confidence and more like a man trying to convince himself he was still in control. The public wasn't buying it anymore. What had once been admiration was now exhaustion. And the tragic part? The more Martell tried to prove he was winning, the clearer it became that he was losing the one thing that mattered most: peace. As the weeks passed, the fallout from Martell's courtroom behavior refused to die down. Every new whisper, every leaked detail added another crack to the image he'd worked years to build. The Guardian ad litem's report, according to sources close to the case, painted a concerning picture. It described a man struggling to cooperate, defensive in tone, and often resistant to compromise. Judges take those reports seriously, and anyone who understands family court knows how damaging that kind of assessment can be. This wasn't about television drama anymore. This was about the future of his children. Yet Martell seemed more focused on optics than outcomes. His social media remained a steady stream of indirect messages, half motivational, half defiant. "They want to break me, but I'm built different," one post read, while another spoke about being misunderstood and unfairly judged. But behind those words, people saw pain, frustration, and fear, the signs of a man who can't control the narrative anymore. Melody, on the other hand, didn't need to say a thing. Her energy spoke for her. She was working, smiling, traveling, expanding her business, and showing the world that peace and power can coexist. She was everything Martell used to claim to be: focused, disciplined, and respected. Even those who once defended him began to step back, realizing that the version of Martell they were seeing wasn't the man they thought they knew. The tragedy was how predictable it had become. Every chance he had to shift the story to show growth ended the same way, with pride standing in the way of progress. And while he was fighting ghosts from his past, Melody was building a legacy for her future. The court's decision might still be pending, but in the court of public opinion, the verdict feels final. Martell Holt, once celebrated for his drive and ambition, now stands as a warning about what happens when ego becomes the enemy. The fame, the attention, the spotlight, none of it could save him from himself. And as Huntsville watches the story unfold, one question remains. Is this Martell's breaking point, or is it his last chance to finally face the man in the mirror and change before it's too late? And as the noise begins to fade, what's left is the quiet truth. Martell Holt stands in the middle of a storm of his own making, his image cracked, his intentions questioned, and his next move hanging in the balance. The same ambition that once built his empire now threatens to destroy everything he claims to love. Fame doesn't grant grace, and charm doesn't win custody. What matters now isn't the followers, the likes, or the headlines. It's whether he can finally look in the mirror and see the man behind the mistakes. Because every empire falls when ego takes the throne. Melody didn't just survive him, she evolved past him. While he's still fighting battles with pride, she's teaching lessons in peace, discipline, and divine timing. Her silence has become her power, her success the loudest response to every attack. And the people of Huntsville, the fans, the audience, they've chosen what kind of story they want to believe in. Not the loudest one, but the one that shows growth, strength, and accountability. Martell's story could still change if he lets it. But right now, he's running out of time to prove he's not the villain in his own narrative. The world isn't waiting for his next post or his next excuse. They're waiting for his redemption, if it ever comes. This was more than gossip. It's a reflection of how quickly fame can blur reality, and how truth always finds its way through the noise. Because at the end of it all, the cameras stop rolling, the followers move on, and what remains is the person you've become when no one's watching. This is where stories like Martell's remind us, growth is the only real comeback. Stay tuned, because Echo Spill will always bring you the stories behind the spotlight, the truths behind the image, and the reality behind the fame.